The Hope Diamond. The Hope Diamond weighs 45.52 carats. Its blue color comes from trace amounts of boron atoms embedded in its crystal structure during formation. The gem is beautiful, flawless, and according to every documented owner in its 300-year recorded history, absolutely cursed. The diamond first appeared in European records in 1668 when French merchant Jean-Baptiste Tavernier sold it to King Louis XIV. Tavernier claimed he'd purchased it in India, but he refused to say where or from whom. Within months of the sale, Tavernier fled France and died under mysterious circumstances in Russia. The official cause was listed as natural death, but witnesses reported he was torn apart by wild dogs. King Louis XIV had the stone cut and set into royal regalia. He wore it once during a state ceremony and died of gangrene weeks later. The diamond passed to Louis XV, who never wore it after watching his entire family succumb to smallpox. Louis XVI inherited the stone along with his wife Marie Antoinette. Both were guillotined during the French Revolution. The diamond vanished during the revolutionary chaos, disappearing from all records for nearly 50 years. When it resurfaced in 1839, it had been recut, reducing its size but intensifying its color. The new owner, Henry Philip Hope, died bankrupt despite his family's enormous wealth. His heirs fought over the stone for decades, each meeting financial ruin. In 1908, Sultan Abdul Hamid II of Turkey purchased the diamond for his wife. Within months, he was overthrown in a violent coup. The diamond was sold to settle debts. Evelyn Walsh McLean, an American socialite, bought it in 1911 despite explicit warnings about the curse. Her son died in a car accident at age 9. Her daughter died of an overdose at 25. Her husband was declared insane and institutionalized. McLean herself died in debt and despair. What makes the Hope Diamond unique isn't just its trail of destruction, but its physical properties. The stone exhibits phosphorescence, glowing blood red when exposed to ultraviolet light. This property shouldn't exist in a blue diamond. The specific wavelength of light it emits doesn't match any known diamond fluorescence pattern. Gemologists at the Smithsonian, where the diamond now resides, have documented anomalous electromagnetic readings around the stone. Sensitive instruments detect field fluctuations that vary with no apparent pattern. Electronic devices sometimes malfunction in the diamond's presence. Security cameras occasionally show visual distortions around the display case. The curse follows a precise pattern. Every owner experiences catastrophic loss, but never immediately. The diamond allows a period of prosperity, sometimes years, before the destruction begins. Financial ruin comes first, followed by death or madness, and always the loss of family members. The pattern has held for over 3 centuries. Chemical analysis of the Hope Diamond reveals trace elements that shouldn't exist in natural diamond formation. The boron content is higher than any other known blue diamond, but that's not the anomaly. Spectrographic analysis shows isotopic ratios that don't match Earth geology. The carbon atoms themselves appear to have formed under conditions that shouldn't exist in our planet's mantle. In 2010, researchers discovered something else. The diamond's crystal structure contains microscopic inclusions that appear to be organized in geometric patterns. Natural inclusions are random. These form precise mathematical sequences. Computer analysis suggests the patterns encode information, though no one has successfully decoded it. The Hope Diamond currently sits in the Smithsonian's National Museum of Natural History, surrounded by bulletproof glass and constant security. It hasn't had a private owner since 1958. The curse appears to have gone dormant, or perhaps it's simply waiting. The Crying Boy. In 1985, a firefighter in South Yorkshire noticed something impossible. He was standing in the charred remains of a house fire, surrounded by complete destruction, when he spotted a painting hanging on the wall, completely undamaged, not even smoke-stained. The painting showed a young boy with tears running down his face. The firefighter had seen it before, in other fires, always intact, always hanging on the wall, while everything around it burned to ash. He mentioned it to colleagues. The response was immediate. Every firefighter in the department had seen the same painting. In dozens of fires across the region, the Crying Boy remained untouched while entire houses were reduced to cinders. The painting was a mass-produced print created by Spanish artist Giovanni Bragolin in the 1950s. Millions of copies hung in homes across Europe. But in 1985, British tabloid The Sun published the firefighters' accounts and received over 50,000 letters from people claiming the painting had caused fires in their homes. The pattern was identical in every case: electrical fires with no clear source, fires that spread impossibly fast, complete destruction of the home's contents, and the painting itself, always undamaged, often still hanging on the wall. One woman described returning home to find her house engulfed in flames. Investigators determined the fire had started in her living room, directly beneath where the crying boy hung. The painting showed no signs of heat damage. The wall behind it was scorched black, but the frame and canvas were pristine. A couple in North London reported their painting fell off the wall at 3 a.m. with no apparent cause. They found it lying face down on their carpet. When they tried to hang it back up, the wire had melted, though the painting itself was cold to the touch. Their house burned down 2 weeks later. Fire investigation reports from the 1980s show an unusual pattern. In cases involving the crying boy painting, fires demonstrated characteristics that violated normal combustion behavior. They burned hotter than their fuel sources should allow. They spread against natural ventilation patterns. They consumed organic materials while leaving the painting completely untouched. Dr. David Clark, a folklore researcher at Sheffield Hallam University, documented over 200 cases of fires associated with the crying boy between 1985 and 1990. In 85% of documented cases, the painting survived with no damage, while everything else in the room was destroyed. This shouldn't be possible. Canvas and wood burn easily. The painting's frame should ignite at around 300 degrees Celsius. House fires typically reach 600 degrees. Yet firefighters consistently found the crying boy hanging on walls where the heat had melted glass and warped metal. Chemical analysis of surviving paintings revealed nothing unusual. The canvas, paint, and varnish were standard materials. Fire resistance testing showed the paintings burned normally under controlled conditions. Whatever protected them in actual house fires didn't function in laboratory settings. The curse has an origin story, though it's impossible to verify. According to local legend, Bragolin painted the original crying boy from life, using an orphan child as his model. The boy died in a fire shortly after the painting was completed. Bragolin's studio burned down months later, killing the artist. Only his paintings of the crying boy survived. In 1990, The Sun organized a mass burning of crying boy paintings, claiming to break the curse. They collected thousands of prints and incinerated them in a controlled bonfire. The event was documented with photographs and video. The paintings burned normally in the bonfire. No resistance, no anomalies. But house fires involving the crying boy continued. The Basano vase. In 1988, an Italian bride died on her wedding night holding a silver vase she'd received as a gift. The vase dated to the 15th century, crafted in the northern Italian village of Basano del Grappa. It was beautiful, ornate, and according to the note tucked inside, intended for her on the day of her death. The vase had appeared on her doorstep 3 days before the wedding. No return address, no indication of who sent it, just a small card that read, "From a friend, beware, this vase brings death." She'd laughed at the warning, displayed the vase at her wedding reception, died in her sleep 12 hours later. No apparent cause. The coroner's report listed cardiac arrest, but she was 21 years old with no history of heart problems. The vase passed to her family. Her mother died within 2 months. Her father lasted 3 weeks after that. Her younger brother refused to touch it and donated the vase to a local museum. The museum curator who accepted the donation died the same night. His assistant died a week later. The museum board voted unanimously to dispose of the vase, but no one would touch it. They hired a contractor to remove it. He died in a car accident on his way home. The vase sat in storage for 3 years before a pharmacist purchased it at an estate auction in 1991. He died within a month. His widow tried to give it away. She offered it to antique dealers, historical societies, even tried leaving it on the street. It kept coming back. Every person who took possession died shortly after. By 1992, The vase had killed 15 people in 4 years. The Italian police launched an investigation. They traced the vase's history back through estate records and found a pattern extending centuries. The basano vase first appeared in recorded history in 1475 as a wedding gift for a bride from the village of Basano. She died on her wedding night. The vase passed through her family, killing each member within months. It moved from owner to owner, leaving a trail of unexplained deaths that local priests eventually attributed to demonic possession. In 1518, the vase disappeared from records. No sales, no estate transfers. It simply vanished for 470 years, before reappearing in 1988 with the same wedding gift inscription, delivered to a bride who would die on her wedding night. The Italian government declared the vase a public health hazard in 1992. Officials decided to bury it in a secret location sealed in lead and concrete. 3 police officers were assigned to transport it to the burial site. All 3 died before the burial could be completed. 2 from sudden heart attacks, 1 from a brain aneurysm. A priest was called to perform an exorcism before a second burial attempt. He died during the ritual. The church refused to send another priest. The vase was eventually buried in an undisclosed location by a crew working remotely using mechanical equipment. No humans touched it directly. The burial coordinates were destroyed. The workers were sworn to secrecy. 2 of the burial crew members died within the year. What makes the basano vase impossible isn't the curse itself, but the vase's physical properties. Metallurgical analysis completed before the burial revealed that the silver alloy used in its construction doesn't match any known 15th century metalworking techniques. The molecular structure shows precision casting methods that wouldn't be developed until the 19th century. More disturbing are the inscriptions. The vase bears Latin text around its base that translates roughly to, "She who receives this gift shall join the earth before the moon completes its cycle." Standard curse language for the period. But spectrographic analysis shows the engraving was done with tools that leave microscopic patterns inconsistent with 15th century hand tools. The vase also contains an interior inscription that's not in Latin. It's not in any known language. Linguistic analysis has failed to identify the alphabet or grammatical structure. The symbols don't match any historical writing system, but they're precisely engraved with mathematical spacing that suggests deliberate language rather than decoration. Perhaps most troubling is the dating discrepancy. Carbon dating of organic residue inside the vase produced results that varied by over 1,000 years, depending on which part of the interior was tested. The base dated to approximately 1480. The rim dated to 2340. The vase is buried somewhere in Italy. The location is classified. The Italian government has declared that it must never be disturbed. 8 people died to put it in the ground. No one knows how many it killed before that. The dybbuk box. Kevin Manus bought a wine cabinet at an estate sale in Portland, Oregon in 2001. The seller was the granddaughter of a Holocaust survivor who begged him not to buy it. She told him the cabinet was a dybbuk box, a container used in Jewish folklore to trap malevolent spirits. Her grandmother had sealed something inside it during the Holocaust and warned that it should never be opened. Manus bought it anyway. He opened it that evening. Inside, he found 2 locks of hair bound with cord, 1 granite slab, 1 dried rosebud, 1 golden goblet, 2 wheat pennies, and 1 wine cup. He also found a handwritten note in Hebrew that translated to, "This belongs to the darkness." Within 24 hours, every light bulb in his house shattered simultaneously. His mother, who was visiting, suffered a massive stroke while looking at the cabinet. She survived, but remained partially paralyzed and unable to speak. When shown the cabinet in the hospital, she became hysterical, trying to form words, but producing only sounds of terror. Manus gave the cabinet to his sister. She returned it after 3 days. She'd been waking at 3:17 a.m. every night to find a dark figure standing at the foot of her bed. Her hair had begun falling out in clumps. She could smell burning flesh in her house, though no source could be found. He gave it to his brother. It came back within a week. His brother reported the same experiences. The 3:17 a.m. visitor, the smell of burning, and something new, scratching sounds from inside the sealed cabinet, as if something was trying to get out. Manus tried to destroy the box. He swung a sledgehammer at it. The hammer shattered. The box remained intact without a scratch. He attempted to burn it. The wood wouldn't ignite. He poured gasoline on it and lit a match. The gasoline burned, but the cabinet remained untouched beneath the flames. He tried giving it away to anyone who would take it. Every person returned it within days, reporting identical experiences. The 3:17 a.m. visitations, the smell, the sounds, and something worse. They all reported dreaming of the same elderly woman with empty eye sockets, who whispered in a language they couldn't understand. In 2003, Manus sold the cabinet on eBay with a full disclosure of its history. The buyer, a college student named Josef Nitsky, experienced immediate terror. Objects in his house moved on their own. His computer would turn on by itself and type the same message repeatedly. "Hate you." Nitsky documented everything. He set up cameras, audio recorders, and began keeping a detailed journal of the phenomena. The footage showed doors opening and closing with no visible cause. Shadow figures appeared in multiple rooms simultaneously. Most disturbing were the audio recordings that captured voices speaking in what linguistic experts identified as Yiddish from the 1940s. The cabinet passed through multiple owners between 2003 and 2012. Each reported similar experiences. Each tried to dispose of it. None succeeded. The box always came back or was purchased again by someone who thought they could break the curse. Museum curator Jason Haxton acquired the dybbuk box in 2004 for academic research. Within months, he developed autoimmune disorders, experienced recurring nightmares, and found his health deteriorating rapidly. Medical tests showed nothing wrong, but he continued to decline. Haxton consulted rabbis, paranormal researchers, and physicists. He had the box examined by every type of expert available. The findings were contradictory and impossible. The wood was identified as acacia, common in Middle Eastern furniture, but dendrochronology testing produced impossible results. The growth ring suggested the tree was cut down in 1938, matching the Holocaust timeline, but carbon dating of the same wood sample indicated it was over 2,800 years old. The objects inside the box showed similar anomalies. The golden goblet appeared to be 18th century European craftsmanship, but metallurgical analysis revealed gold isotope ratios that don't occur naturally on Earth. The wheat pennies were genuine 1925 and 1928 minting, but spectrographic analysis of the metal showed they'd been subjected to radiation levels inconsistent with normal aging. Most disturbing were the electromagnetic readings. The box emitted fluctuating electromagnetic fields that varied with no pattern. The readings spiked at exactly 3:17 a.m. every night, regardless of the box's location or time zone. Haxton eventually performed a ritual sealing recommended by multiple rabbis. He built a special ark lined with gold and acacia wood, placed the dybbuk box inside with specific prayers and offerings, and sealed it with multiple locks and blessings. The nightmares stopped. His health improved. The phenomena ceased. But the box remains sealed in his possession, and he reports that he can still hear scratching from inside the ark at 3:17 every morning. The hands resist him. Bill Stoneham painted The Hands Resist Him in 1972. The artwork depicted a young boy and a life-size doll standing in front of a glass door with hands pressed against the glass from the other side. Stoneham based the painting on a childhood photograph of himself, using an old Victorian house and a doll from his youth as reference. The gallery owner who first displayed the painting died within a year. The art critic who reviewed it died within months. The painting was purchased by actor John Marley, who passed away in 1984. After his death, the painting vanished from all records. It reappeared on eBay in February 2000, listed by a California couple who found it abandoned behind a brewery. The listing description explained that their 4-year-old daughter claimed the children in the painting moved at night. The couple set up a camera to humor her. The photographs they captured showed the boy's position had changed. The doll appeared to be holding a gun in some frames that wasn't visible in others. The hands behind the glass had increased in number and were pressed against different parts of the door. The eBay listing went viral. The couple received thousands of emails from people who claimed viewing the painting online caused physical symptoms: nausea, blackouts, feelings of intense dread. Children who saw the image refused to sleep. Adults reported nightmares featuring the boy and doll from the painting. Gallery owner Kim Smith purchased the painting in 2000 for $1,025. She received immediate warnings from multiple sources not to display it publicly. She ignored the warnings and exhibited the painting in her Grand Rapids gallery. Within a week, the gallery experienced a series of violent incidents. A visitor collapsed and had to be hospitalized. Security footage showed people backing away from the painting in fear, despite claiming they felt compelled to approach it. Several viewers reported the sensation that the boy in the painting was watching them, with his eyes following their movement around the gallery. Smith commissioned an analysis of the painting. Experts found nothing unusual about the canvas, paint, or frame. But infrared imaging revealed something impossible. Beneath the visible layers of paint, there were other images. Multiple versions of the same scene, painted over and over, with subtle differences in each layer. The underlayers showed the boy in different positions. The doll held different objects. The number of hands behind the glass varied from a few to hundreds. Most disturbing was the deepest layer, barely visible through scanning, which showed the glass door shattered and the hands reaching through into the room. In 2004, the painting was loaned to a paranormal research team for controlled study. They placed it in a locked room with 24-hour video surveillance and multiple sensor arrays monitoring electromagnetic fields, temperature, and air pressure. The footage captured impossible events. The boy's eyes appeared to blink in freeze-frame analysis. The doll's position shifted between frames, despite no one entering the room. On the third night of observation, all cameras failed simultaneously. When power was restored, the painting had turned around to face the wall. No one had entered the room. The door remained locked and sealed. Yet the painting had moved on its own. Chemical analysis of the paint revealed anomalies that materials scientists couldn't explain. The pigments contained compounds that shouldn't exist together. Organic materials mixed with synthetic compounds that wouldn't be developed until the 1990s, despite the painting dating to 1972. The molecular structure of the paint suggested it had been applied and dried at different rates across the canvas, as if parts of the painting aged faster than others. Bill Stoneham himself has acknowledged the painting's dark history, but claims he used no special materials or techniques. He painted it in a normal studio with standard supplies over the course of several weeks. He admits he felt compelled to paint it, as if the image was already complete in his mind, and he was simply reproducing what he could already see. Stoneham has created 2 sequels to the original painting: Resistance at the Threshold in 2004 and Threshold of Revelation in 2012. Both paintings depict what appears to be the continuing story of the boy and doll. Neither has demonstrated the same phenomena as the original. The Hands Resist Him currently resides in a private collection. The owner refuses to display it publicly and will not disclose its location. They report no unusual activity, but they keep it covered. Always. And they never view it after dark. The Annabelle doll. In 1970, a nursing student received a Raggedy Ann doll as a birthday gift. Within days, the doll began appearing in different rooms despite being left in specific locations. The student and her roommate initially dismissed it as pranks. Then they found handwritten notes on parchment paper that read "Help us" and "Help Lou." Neither student owned parchment paper. The doll began appearing in poses it hadn't been left in. Standing when it should be sitting. Arms raised when they'd been down. Most disturbing, it sometimes appeared to be kneeling, as if in prayer or supplication. Lou, a friend who frequently visited the apartment, reported feeling intense hatred when near the doll. He dreamed repeatedly of the doll attacking him, climbing up his body and strangling him. He woke with scratches on his chest arranged in 7 claw marks that appeared to have been made from the inside of his body, pushing outward through the skin. The students contacted a medium who conducted a seance. The medium claimed the doll was possessed by the spirit of Annabelle Higgins, a 7-year-old girl who died on the property where the apartment complex now stood. The spirit said she felt comfort with the nursing students and wanted to stay with them. The students gave permission. That's when the attacks began. Lou arrived one evening to find the student's apartment dark and silent. As he entered, he heard noises from the bedroom. He found the Annabelle doll on the floor in the center of the room. As he approached, he felt a burning sensation on his chest. When he pulled up his shirt, fresh claw marks were appearing on his skin in real time. 7 deep scratches manifesting with no physical cause. The students contacted Ed and Lorraine Warren, paranormal investigators who examined the doll and declared it wasn't possessed by a child spirit. According to their assessment, an inhuman demonic entity had attached itself to the doll. Using the fabricated story of Annabelle Higgins to gain the students' permission to operate freely in their home, the Warrens took possession of the doll in 1970. During transport to their occult museum in Connecticut, the car experienced multiple mechanical failures despite having been serviced that morning. The brakes failed 3 times. The engine died repeatedly. Ed Warren performed an exorcism blessing in the car, and the mechanical problems ceased immediately. The doll was placed in a custom-built locked case in the Warren Occult Museum with a warning sign, "Do not touch." The case includes multiple layers of blessed barriers and is surrounded by religious artifacts meant to contain the entity. Despite these precautions, the museum has documented ongoing activity. Security footage shows the doll moving inside the locked case. It changes positions between opening and closing hours. It sometimes appears in different parts of the case from where it was left. Most disturbing, the doll occasionally appears to be standing upright, pressed against the glass, though it's always found seated when staff check. In 1980, a young man visited the museum and mocked the doll, pounding on the case and challenging the demon to prove itself. Ed Warren asked him to leave. The man left on a motorcycle with his girlfriend. On their drive home, they lost control on a winding road and crashed into a tree. The man died instantly. His girlfriend survived and reported that just before the crash, they both heard a child's laughter coming from his backpack. A priest was brought to the museum in 1983 to perform a formal exorcism on the doll. During the ritual, he reported feeling an invisible force choking him. He was thrown backward despite no physical contact. He later told the Warrens that he'd been warned by a voice that he would die if he tried to destroy the doll. The priest died in a car accident 2 months later when his vehicle's brakes failed and he crashed into a truck. Accident investigators found no mechanical explanation for the brake failure. Scientific analysis of the doll reveals nothing unusual about the materials. It's a standard Raggedy Ann doll manufactured in 1968 by the Knickerbocker Toy Company. The fabric, stuffing, and construction match factory specifications exactly. There's nothing chemically or physically abnormal about the doll itself, yet electromagnetic field detectors spike when brought near the case. Temperature readings fluctuate wildly in the doll's vicinity, sometimes dropping 20 degrees in seconds. Audio recorders capture sounds that suggest breathing, though the doll is an inanimate object in a sealed case. After Lorraine Warren's death in 2019, the museum was closed to the public. The Annabelle doll remains in its case, locked and blessed, monitored by cameras that continue to capture impossible movements. The Warren's son-in-law, Tony Spera, now maintains the museum. He performs regular blessings on the case and follows strict protocols for anyone who enters the room. The rules are absolute. No touching the case, no mockery, no challenges to the entity, because every person who has violated those rules has died. The Anguished Man. Sean Robinson inherited a painting from his grandmother in 1995. She'd kept it hidden in her attic for 25 years, refusing to display it or explain why she kept something she claimed was evil. On her deathbed, she warned Sean never to hang the painting in his home. She told him the artist had mixed his own blood into the paint and committed suicide shortly after completing it. Sean hung the painting in his hallway. Within hours, his wife reported hearing crying sounds coming from the painting. At first, Sean dismissed it. Then he heard it too. A man's voice sobbing, the sound emanating directly from the canvas. They began documenting the phenomena. Audio recordings captured the crying, along with other sounds. Footsteps in empty hallways, doors slamming with no one present, a male voice whispering words they couldn't understand. shadow figures appeared in their home. Sean's wife saw a dark humanoid shape standing at the top of their stairs at night. Their son reported a man's silhouette standing beside his bed. The shape never moved or spoke, but its presence filled the room with overwhelming dread. Physical phenomena escalated. Objects moved on their own. Doors opened and closed without cause. The painting itself would sometimes be found tilted at sharp angles despite being securely mounted to the wall. On several occasions, the painting fell off the wall entirely, hitting the floor with tremendous force, yet never sustaining damage. Sean set up video cameras throughout his house in 2010 to document the activity. The footage captured impossible events. Lights switching on and off in sequence, doors opening while the handles remained stationary, objects sliding across tables, shadow figures moving through rooms, and always the sound of a man crying. In one particularly disturbing clip, a dark mass rises from the painting itself, taking vaguely humanoid form before dispersing into the room. The event lasted 7 seconds. Every electronic device in the house failed immediately after. The cameras, the lights, even battery-powered devices all stopped functioning simultaneously. Sean consulted paranormal researchers who examined the painting. Infrared imaging revealed that the paint contains unusual thermal properties. Certain areas of the canvas remain several degrees colder than the surrounding environment, with no physical explanation. The cold spots don't correspond to drafts or environmental factors. They are localized to specific brush strokes, as if the paint itself generates cold. Chemical analysis confirmed the presence of human blood mixed with the oil paint. DNA testing identified it as male, but the sample was too degraded for more specific identification. The blood shows signs of chemical breakdown consistent with exposure to severe psychological stress. Cortisol levels in the blood sample were extraordinarily high, suggesting the artist was experiencing extreme emotional distress when mixing his blood into the paint. The painting depicts a hunched figure with its face hidden, sitting in darkness. The brushwork is aggressive, almost violent. Deep gouges in the canvas suggest the artist attacked it with the brush during creation. The overall composition conveys anguish so profound that viewers often report feeling depressed or disturbed after looking at it for more than a few moments. Art historians have been unable to identify the artist or determine when the painting was created. The style suggests late 20th century work, but the materials analysis produces contradictory results. The canvas dates to the 1970s, but the paint chemistry suggests formulations that weren't commercially available until the 1990s. Sean uploaded his video evidence to YouTube in 2010. The footage has been viewed millions of times and analyzed by skeptics and believers alike. Professional video analysts have confirmed the footage shows no signs of digital manipulation or clever editing. The phenomena captured on camera are either genuine or created using practical effects so sophisticated that they'd require production budgets and expertise far beyond what a private individual could access. The most disturbing development came in 2016 when Sean finally researched the painting's origin. Through his grandmother's estate documents, he traced it back to a purchase made in 1970 from an estate sale in Scotland. The previous owner had died in the house where Sean's grandmother purchased it. The cause of death was listed as suicide. The man had been an artist. He'd been found in his studio, hanging from a beam, with a completed painting still on his easel. According to the sale documents, his final painting depicted a hunched figure in darkness. The painting that Sean inherited. Sean Robinson still owns the anguished man. He's been offered substantial sums to sell it. He's refused every offer. He keeps the painting covered when not documenting phenomena, and he's built a special case to contain it when it's not in use. But he still hears the crying. Even through the case, through the cloth covering, the sound reaches him. A man's voice sobbing in endless anguish, trapped in paint and blood and canvas. Trapped forever. The Dark Mirror. The Myrtles plantation in Louisiana purchased an ornate mirror in 1796. The mirror was French, gilded, and according to plantation records, arrived with no documentation of its maker or origin. It hung in the main hallway for over 2 centuries. During that time, 9 people died violently in the house. All 9 appear in the mirror. Visitors to the plantation, now a historical museum, report seeing figures in the mirror that aren't present in the room. Handprints appear on the glass from the inside. Faces manifest in the reflection that don't belong to anyone standing before it. Most disturbing are the children, small figures that appear behind visitors, watching, always watching. The mirror has been photographed thousands of times. Analysis of these photographs reveals consistent anomalies. In approximately 40% of images, additional figures appear in the mirror's reflection that weren't visible to the naked eye when the photo was taken. These figures show details that shouldn't be possible in a reflection. Clothing from different time periods, hairstyles from the 1800s. In some images, the figures appear to be reaching out of the mirror toward the photographer. In 1992, a paranormal research team conducted an extensive investigation of the mirror. They documented over 60 separate instances of unexplained phenomena over a 3-day period. Handprints materialized on the glass despite no one touching it. Voices were recorded speaking languages the researchers couldn't identify. Most significantly, their video footage showed a woman's face appearing in the mirror while the room was completely empty. The woman's identity was later confirmed through historical records. She matched the description of Sarah Woodruff, a plantation slave who died in the house in 1823. Her death was recorded in plantation documents as occurring in front of the hallway mirror after she'd been accused of theft. Chemical analysis of the mirror reveals impossible properties. The glass contains lead concentrations that match 18th century French manufacturing techniques. But embedded in the glass at a molecular level are trace amounts of organic material, human material. Skin cells, hair fragments, and what appears to be dried blood, all distributed throughout the glass as if they were present during the manufacturing process. The silver backing of the mirror also demonstrates anomalous characteristics. Spectrographic analysis shows the silver is unusually pure, containing almost no impurities. This level of refinement shouldn't have been achievable with 18th century metallurgy. More disturbing, the silver layer appears to be growing. Measurements taken in 1950 and repeated in 2010 show the silver backing has increased in thickness by nearly 2 millimeters, with no external source of material. According to legend, mirrors in homes where someone died should be covered to prevent the deceased spirit from becoming trapped. The mirror at the Myrtles plantation was never covered. Every person who died in the house did so within sight of the mirror's reflection. Staff at the plantation report consistent phenomena. They clean handprints off the mirror every morning. The prints appear overnight, always on the inside of the glass. Attempts to seal the mirror in protective cases don't stop the prints from appearing. They manifest between the glass and whatever barrier is placed in front of it. Temperature readings around the mirror show localized cold spots that move across the glass surface. Thermal imaging cameras capture these cold points traveling in patterns that suggest deliberate movement. The cold spots pause at specific locations as if something invisible is examining its reflection. In 2003, a visitor attempted to remove the mirror from the plantation. She claimed to be a descendant of the original owner and argued the mirror belonged to her family. She won a legal judgment granting her possession. The mirror was carefully removed, packed, and loaded into a moving truck. The truck crashed on the highway 3 miles from the plantation. The driver survived, but reported that his steering wheel jerked violently to the left with no mechanical cause. The truck flipped, spilling its contents across the interstate. Everything in the truck was destroyed. Everything except the mirror. It was found 40 feet from the wreckage, standing upright in grass beside the road, without a scratch on its surface. The mirror was returned to the plantation and rehung in its original position. The woman who claimed it died in her sleep 2 weeks later. The autopsy listed the cause as heart failure, but witnesses at her funeral reported seeing handprints on the inside of her casket lid. Quantum physicists from Louisiana State University examined the mirror in 2015 using experimental detection equipment. They measured unusual quantum fluctuations around the mirror's surface. The fluctuations suggested the mirror was creating interference patterns consistent with multiple overlapping quantum states existing simultaneously. In layman's terms, the mirror appeared to be reflecting multiple timelines at once. The researchers observed that looking into the mirror sometimes produced double reflections. Not duplicates of the viewer, but the viewer as they existed at different points in time. A woman looking into the mirror saw herself as a child standing beside her adult reflection. A man saw himself as an elderly version standing behind his current self. The effect was documented, photographed, and remains unexplained. The Myrtles Plantation continues to operate as a museum and bed and breakfast. The mirror hangs in its original location. Guests are warned not to touch it, not to stare into it for extended periods, and never to take photographs of themselves in its reflection after dark. Because those who do often see additional faces in the photographs, faces standing directly behind them, faces that weren't there when the picture was taken. Faces of the 9 who died, watching, waiting, trapped forever in the dark mirror. The Devil's Rocking Chair. In 1912, a furniture craftsman in rural Pennsylvania created a rocking chair for his wife. He carved it from oak harvested from land where a suspected witch had been executed in 1684. The chair was beautiful, with intricate scrollwork and perfect balance. His wife sat in it once and immediately demanded he burn it. She said it whispered to her. The craftsman refused to destroy his work. Instead, he moved the chair to his workshop. That night, he was found dead in the chair, rocking slowly despite no one being present to push it. The local coroner ruled death by natural causes, but witnesses reported the man's face was frozen in an expression of absolute terror. The chair was sold at a state auction. The buyer died within a month, also found in the chair, rocking. The next owner lasted 3 weeks. The pattern continued for decades. Anyone who sat in the chair died shortly after, always found in the chair, always rocking. By 1950, the chair had killed 17 documented victims. It gained local notoriety as the Devil's Rocking Chair. Families warned children to stay away. Antique dealers refused to handle it. The chair moved from owner to owner, not through sales, but through inheritance, abandonment, and desperate attempts to dispose of it. In 1972, Thomas Hicks purchased the chair at a flea market. He was a skeptic, a professor of physics who collected supposedly cursed objects to debunk superstition. He placed the chair in his campus office as a conversation piece and invited students to sit in it. 4 students accepted the challenge between 1972 and 1977. All 4 died within 6 months of sitting in the chair. Car accidents, sudden illness, one unexplained drowning. Hicks became convinced the deaths were coincidence, but he stopped inviting people to sit. In 1978, Hicks sat in the chair himself to prove it was harmless. He was found dead the next morning in his locked office, sitting in the chair, still rocking. The campus security footage showed no one entering or leaving his office. The chair rocked by itself for 3 hours after his body was discovered. The university donated the chair to a local museum in 1979 with explicit instructions never to allow anyone to sit in it. The museum director ignored the warning and used the chair in his office. He died 6 weeks later. The chair was placed in museum storage behind a velvet rope with a placard explaining its deadly history. It remained there for 15 years. During that time, 3 security guards reported seeing the chair rocking on its own during night shifts. Security cameras confirmed their reports. The chair would begin rocking at random times, usually between 2 and 4 a.m., and continue for hours. In 1994, paranormal investigators were granted permission to examine the chair. They documented electromagnetic anomalies, unusual cold spots, and recorded audio that included faint whispering sounds. Voice analysis revealed the whispers were in English, but the words were threats. "Sit with me. Join us. Your turn." The investigators detected that the chair's wood contained unusual properties. Dendrochronology confirmed the oak was from the Pennsylvania region, but it showed growth patterns inconsistent with normal trees. The rings suggested periods of rapid growth followed by complete dormancy, as if the tree had experienced time differently than its surroundings. More disturbing was the discovery of residue embedded deep in the wood grain. Chemical analysis identified the residue as human ash. Bone fragments and carbon consistent with human cremation were distributed throughout the chair's structure at a molecular level, as if the wood had absorbed human remains while still living as a tree. Historical research revealed the execution site where the oak was harvested. In 1684, Margaret Matson was convicted of witchcraft and burned at the stake on that exact spot. The oak tree had stood 20 feet from the execution pyre. Witnesses had reported that the tree's bark had turned black during the burning and that it never bloomed again. The chair also demonstrated an unusual attraction effect. People who came near it reported feeling compelled to sit, despite knowing its history. The urge was described as a gentle whisper in their mind, inviting them to rest, promising comfort. Those who resisted the urge reported feeling relief once they were out of the chair's presence. In 2007, the museum director decided to permanently seal the chair. It was placed in a glass case with the seat facing downward so no one could accidentally sit if the case was opened. The case was bolted to the floor and surrounded by barriers. The rocking continued. Security footage showed the chair moving inside the sealed case, tilting back and forth despite being suspended off the ground and enclosed in glass. In 2014, a teenage visitor to the museum climbed over the barriers and broke the case. He sat in the chair for approximately 30 seconds before security removed him. He posted about the experience on social media, mocking the curse and claiming nothing had happened. He died in his sleep 8 days later. The autopsy revealed no cause of death. His mother reported that in the days before his death, he complained of whispers urging him to return to the museum. On the night he died, his Fitbit recorded him rocking in place for over 3 hours while appearing to be asleep. The museum closed its Cursed Objects exhibit in 2015. The Devil's Rocking Chair was removed from display and placed in permanent storage in a climate-controlled vault. The vault is opened once per year for inspection. During the 2019 inspection, staff discovered deep scratches on the inside of the vault door. The scratches formed words. "Let me out." The chair remains in storage. It continues to rock. Security cameras show it moving even in the sealed vault, keeping rhythm with something only it can hear. 23 confirmed deaths over 107 years, and the chair still whispers to anyone who comes near, "Sit with me." The Woman from Lem. In 1878, archaeologists excavating on Cyprus discovered a limestone statue in the village of Lem. The artifact dated to approximately 3,500 BCE, making it over 5,000 years old. It depicted a female figure with exaggerated features common to prehistoric fertility idols. The statue measured 11 inches tall and showed signs of ritual use. The lead archaeologist who discovered the statue died within 6 years. The cause was listed as unknown illness. The statue was purchased by Lord Elfont in 1878 for his private collection. His entire family died within 4 years. Lord Elfont died first, followed by his wife and 2 daughters. All 4 deaths were sudden and unexplained. The family fortune was liquidated and the statue passed through estate sales. Ivor Minucci acquired the statue in 1883. He died within 1 year. His son, who inherited the collection, died within 2 years. The statue was sold again. Lord Thompson Knoll purchased it in 1887. He and his entire household, including 4 family members and 2 servants, died within 4 years. The pattern was becoming clear, but collectors continued to acquire the statue, driven by its historical significance and rarity. By 1920, the Woman from Lem had been connected to the deaths of 14 people across 7 families. Every owner or direct handler of the statue had died, usually within 4 years of acquisition. The deaths showed no common medical cause: heart failure, sudden illness, accidents. But the pattern held with mathematical precision. In 1970, the statue was donated to the Royal Scottish Museum in Edinburgh, where it remains today. The museum displays it behind glass with a historical placard that makes no mention of its deadly history. Since entering the museum's collection, no deaths have been directly attributed to the statue, but museum staff report unusual phenomena. The statue is sometimes found in different positions than it was left, despite being in a locked case. Temperature sensors near the display show dramatic fluctuations with no environmental cause. Visitors report feeling watched when viewing the statue, and several have fainted in its presence. The statue's material composition has been extensively analyzed. It's limestone from the Cyprus region. consistent with other artifacts from the same period. The carving techniques match prehistoric tools. There's nothing chemically unusual about the stone itself. However, microscopic analysis revealed anomalous markings. Beneath the visible surface, deeper in the stone, are tool marks that don't match any known prehistoric carving implements. The precision and geometry of these hidden marks suggest cutting tools with edges far sharper and more controlled than should have been available in 3500 BCE. More troubling are the organic residues found in microscopic crevices throughout the statue. DNA analysis identified traces of human tissue, but the DNA showed degradation patterns inconsistent with 5,000-year-old material. Some samples appeared ancient, others seemed only decades old. The distribution suggested the statue had been in contact with human tissue across multiple time periods. Archaeologists have proposed that the statue was used in ritual sacrifices, which might explain both the organic residue and the death curse. But this doesn't explain the precision of the hidden tool marks or why deaths continued to follow the statue into the modern era. The woman from Lem has another unusual property. It appears differently in photographs depending on who takes them and when. Some photos show the statue with its arms in one position. Others show them differently. The museum maintains these are tricks of lighting and angle, but controlled photography sessions with fixed cameras have produced images showing the statue in various poses, despite no movement of the camera or statue. In 1989, a researcher requested permission to conduct electromagnetic field measurements around the statue. The readings showed the statue emitted a faint but consistent electromagnetic pulse. The frequency was 1.6 Hz, just below the threshold of human perception, but in the range known to cause feelings of unease and fear. The pulse was regular, like a heartbeat. Further testing in 2003 revealed that the electromagnetic emission increased in intensity when humans approached the statue. The closer someone came, the stronger the pulse. When someone touched the glass case, the pulse spiked to levels that caused headaches and disorientation in sensitive individuals. The statue appears to react to human presence. The museum has restricted access to the woman from Lem. It's no longer included in standard tours. Viewing requires advance permission and is limited to academic research. The case is never opened except for mandatory conservation inspection, and only senior staff who have completed specific safety protocols are allowed to handle the statue directly. None of those staff members have died. Yet, the museum keeps detailed health records of everyone who has direct contact with the woman from Lem. So far, the pattern of deaths within 4 years hasn't resumed. But the museum's insurance policy specifically excludes coverage for deaths related to cursed objects. The actuarial tables, calculating risk based on the statue's documented history, suggested the premiums would be too high. The woman from Lem sits in her case in Edinburgh, limestone eyes staring at nothing, arms frozen in whatever position she occupies today. Museum cameras monitor her constantly. The electromagnetic pulse continues, steady and regular. 1.6 Hz, like a heartbeat, like something waiting. The crying child. In 1527, a master craftsman in Prague created a porcelain doll for a nobleman's daughter. The doll was exquisite, with hand-painted features and real human hair. According to records from the period, the doll was delivered to the nobleman's estate on the child's 7th birthday. The child died that night. No illness, no injury. She simply stopped breathing in her sleep, clutching the doll to her chest. The doll passed to the nobleman's younger daughter. She died within a month. The nobleman, grief-stricken and convinced the doll was cursed, ordered it sealed in the family vault. It remained there for nearly 300 years. In 1823, the vault was opened during estate renovation. Workers found the doll in perfect condition despite 3 centuries of storage. It showed no signs of age, no deterioration, no dust. The porcelain was pristine. The hair remained lustrous. The clothing looked freshly made. One of the workers took the doll home for his daughter. His daughter died within a week. The doll was returned to the estate and locked away again. In 1975, an antique dealer purchased the contents of the estate at auction. The doll was included among dozens of historical artifacts. The dealer died before the sale could be completed. His widow discovered the doll and, unaware of its history, gave it to her granddaughter. The granddaughter became violently ill within hours of receiving the doll. She was hospitalized with symptoms doctors couldn't diagnose: high fever, difficulty breathing, rapid heartbeat. The symptoms had no medical cause. When the doll was removed from the child's room, the symptoms ceased within hours. The widow contacted paranormal researchers. They traced the doll's history through estate records and uncovered the pattern: 13 documented deaths across 450 years. Every victim was a female child between the ages of 5 and 10. Every death occurred within 1 month of receiving the doll. The researchers examined the doll under laboratory conditions. The porcelain was authentic 16th century work. The hair was human, preserved through techniques that shouldn't have been available in 1527. Chemical analysis showed the hair had been treated with compounds that prevented biological decay, but the preservation method didn't match any historical hair treatment process. Most disturbing was the doll's interior. X-ray imaging revealed a hollow chamber inside the porcelain body. Inside the chamber was a small leather pouch containing human ashes and what appeared to be fragments of bone. DNA testing of the ash revealed it belonged to a female child, approximately 7 years old. The researchers attempted to remove the pouch, but the porcelain body was seamless. There was no access point. The chamber had been created during the manufacturing process, with the pouch sealed inside the body before the porcelain was fired. The presence of organic material inside the porcelain should have burned away during the firing process, but the pouch and its contents remained intact. The doll's eyes also demonstrated impossible properties. They appeared to track movement. Multiple observers reported that the doll's gaze would follow them around the room. High-speed photography confirmed that the eyes were moving, rotating microscopically in their sockets despite being solid porcelain. In 1982, the doll was acquired by a museum in Prague that specializes in historical artifacts. It was placed in a sealed glass case in a restricted archive room, not on public display. Museum staff reported that children visiting the museum would sometimes walk directly to the archive room as if called, despite having no knowledge of what was stored there. The museum director banned children under 12 from entering the building. In 1996, a restoration expert requested permission to examine the doll's clothing for conservation purposes. She worked alone in a locked conservation laboratory. Security cameras captured her examination process. At 3:47 a.m., the footage shows her suddenly backing away from the doll. Her expression shifts from concentration to terror. She appears to be speaking to the doll, though no audio was recorded. She reaches for the doll, hesitates, and then the camera feed cuts to static for 17 seconds. When the feed resumes, the conservation expert is on the floor. The doll is standing upright on the examination table, which should be impossible given its construction and weight distribution. The expert survived but refused to discuss what happened. She resigned the next day and left the country. The museum sealed the doll in a climate-controlled vault in 2000. It's opened once every 5 years for mandatory inspection. During the 2015 inspection, staff discovered something new. The doll was crying. Real tears, liquid tears, were leaking from its porcelain eyes. Analysis of the liquid revealed it was human tears, containing salt concentrations and protein markers consistent with tears produced by emotional crying rather than reflexive eye moisture. The doll's eyes were porcelain, solid porcelain. There was no mechanism for tear production. Yet the tears continued to flow during the entire 2-hour inspection. The vault was resealed. The museum's official position is that the moisture was condensation from the climate control system. But staff who were present during the inspection maintained that the liquid came from inside the doll's eyes. The doll remains in the vault. Security sensors monitor it continuously. In 2019, audio sensors detected something new. A sound coming from inside the sealed vault. A child's voice crying softly, calling for her mother. The vault hasn't been opened since.